Arcane.
Alright, so first, let's get the obvious things out of the way. Dota is a more strategic, deeper, and just all around better game than League of Legends. I'm joking. Or am I? I've never played League of Legends. I don't know the lore. I've never even played other games from Riot. Well, I played a bit of Valorant, but regardless. I'm coming into this turbo review of the Netflix show Arcane with virtually no knowledge of League of Legends. And I like to think that this is exactly what makes this video interesting for you. That I know nothing. Well, I do know that it's one of the most popular games of the last decade, and just as with Dota and Dragon's Blood, a Netflix series seemed like a good step in the direction of new player acquisition, something that can cater to new audiences. The question, of course, is how successful will it be? Dragon's Blood already ran its course. It was pretty well received critically, the Dota community loved it, and the numbers warranted a follow-up season. One of the characters already launched as a new hero in the game, so the machine of cross-marketing already started grinding its gears. So there's a lot of potential to be had, but as much as I adored Season 1 of Dragon's Blood, it wasn't exactly an earth-shattering success. Now, it's obviously too early to tell what Arcane's legacy will be, but we can already see the show's quality, we can gauge the initial reactions of League players, gaming community, and Netflix viewers alike. And boy, oh boy, will it pain me to say this. Arcane is phenomenal. Now, you know Dota players. As much as we like denying this, we are sometimes a bit elitist of our game. So you can be damn sure that I tried my absolute best to dislike Arcane. I already had this video in mind, you know? How Riot is copying Valve again, like first with the game, and then with the card game, and now with the Netflix show. And even if there's truth in that, you cannot deny... Okay, I'll stop this joke now. You cannot deny the amount of creativity, care, and honestly, money that went into Arcane. Now, I can appreciate Valve's approach to Dragon's Blood. Just as with their updates, they are very experimental, extremely data-driven, and they like to iterate a lot. That being said, Riot is not messing around. They don't want a slow burner, they want a hit. And it is my humble opinion that they will get it. Now, this is not a video about Dragon's Blood, but I will obviously draw some parallels with that show, and I think it's very useful, because I'm an avid fan of Dota, but I know nothing about League of Legends, so this is a very fun experiment for me as well, to see basically how I would have liked Dragon's Blood if I didn't know any Dota. I could never do that, because I know Dota, and I'm a fan of Dota, but now I have the opportunity to look at something without any knowledge of the lore behind it, or the fan service that they might be planting in those episodes. So after all that introduction, let's get into it. This review is about the first 3 episodes of Arcane, how and why it works for someone like me, a stranger to this world.
When I was a kid, me and my sister, we played a game where we pretended to chase monsters away.
Okay, so episode 1, Welcome to the Playground, does a pretty good job of world building and character introduction. The first scene already sets a somewhat adult tone with war and oppression as the central theme, and gets the viewer excited for the struggle of the main characters, the stakes are immediately presented, and even if it's somewhat slow-paced, this opening scene is just perfect screenwriting. The city of Piltover is full of color and beautifully designed architecture, and the rooftop scene sets the dynamic between our protagonists, the kids, perfectly. In the same vein, the underside is mesmerizing in its unique presentation. Also, let me just say here, holy f***, animation of this caliber was only something for Hollywood movies up until just 3-4 years ago. It's absolutely insane how detailed TV shows can get nowadays. Sidebar over. I'm not going to go through every scene, let alone every episode, as this is supposed to be a quick review. The focus of this video, and the reason that I talked so much about the first episode's setup, is that in the first 10 minutes, Arcane would have gotten me way more hooked than Dragon's Blood did, if not for my absolute bias for the Dota world. and that is impressive. Mind you, I know nothing about the lore of League. I probably missed 1,000 clues, foreshadowing, nods, and Easter eggs. I didn't miss this one though.
Every time she comes, something goes wrong. She jinxes every job.
Well, I didn't miss this because it's arguably LoL's most famous champion, and all promotional material she looks like Jinx, so it was quite obvious, blah blah blah. Anyways, regardless of all the references I might have missed, this show just works, and it gets even better as the story goes along. I built my own relationship to these characters completely detached of the video game. I think Vi is one of the most likable protagonists that I've seen in a while. I immediately understood Powder's place in the group dynamic and truly felt for her. I felt like Milo was actually a bit of an annoying little prick. I almost felt Vander's protective aura over me. Is he a support in LoL? Maybe I guess Clegger wasn't as fleshed out. I still don't know what his thing is supposed to be. I think he's like eating cement or something. Here, I have to say that I actually looked up nothing on the lore of League of Legends. For all I know, all these characters aren't even champions in the game. Well, except for Jinx, as I said. I also like that they didn't shy away from adult concepts, but they also managed to keep it somewhat appropriate for most ages. It didn't feel childish at all, and it also didn't shy away from showing a bit of blood and violence. Not as much as Dragon's Blood, though. I liked both in this regard, to be honest. What both shows also do really well is they set up multiple factions and sides to the story. While there's way more morally gray characters in Arcane, I also think Dragon Blood's storylines had a lot of conflicting interests from many parties. Arcane is set up the same way, with good characters on the wrong side and evil characters on the good side of the conflict, also rendering the concept of sides meaningless and highlighting moral values regardless of political gain. These oppositions definitely carry depth. Even on the scientific side plot, we root against an obviously good character at times, and this moral ambiguity is something a lot of shows miss. Just not to make it sound like Arcane is perfect, I did see a lot of overused cliches that I definitely didn't see as much of in Dragon's Blood. Like listening in on a conversation but leaving right before the part where they say good things about you, and then resolving it 2 minutes later. The door opening to reveal it's not the people you expect it to be, and worst of all, it's between episodes when that happens. And a lot of others that I can't say because I would spoil the show for you. But to be fair, these never really take away from the narrative, it just feels like lazy writing at times. Also, this is personal preference. I really like dramas and I usually dislike comedies because I think it's usually just not funny. But I think this show had a potential to be, just a hint funnier. And they pulled it off pretty well when they tried, so I wish they tried it a bit more. Not that I hate the drama, because the drama is exceptional. Also, if I highlighted overused cliches, I should really highlight good screenwriting as well. So here's a few examples. One of those was showing the break-in in episode 1 and then showing it from a different perspective in episode 2, showing the from many different perspectives in episode 3. And yeah, I guess you get it. I have a thing for these different perspectives kind of deal. But I think it's clever screenwriting. But also, here's the great strength of the show from a writing perspective. Great dialogues like Heimerdinger versus Jace, Silco versus Vander, Vi versus Powder, Vi versus Vander, Vi versus Vander, Vi versus Milo. Oh man, Vi is such a great character. And anyways, there's some great quotes that I can't go into because of spoilers, but trust me on this, dialogue writing is on point. The storylines in Arcane are consistently interesting, and while I don't think any surpass Dragon's Blood's storyline of Invoker, I can be constantly curious of everything going on in Arcane's world. I'm looking at you, Fimran. Again, not to draw too many comparisons for wildly different shows, but ultimately, as marketing tools, which they are, I think Arcane works much, much better in exciting viewers for more information on the world. This might be due to a more consistent lore in the League of Legends world, as Dota's lore is insanely complicated and borderline doesn't make sense half the time, and all projects trying to expand on it felt like they were just, too ambitious for their own good. It would have been so easy to just make an action-packed series with nods to champion abilities, and while I'm quite sure those nods are there, this is a skill of Jinx, isn't it? It absolutely didn't feel like they were doing fan service almost at all. But can League players actually help me out here? Do you think LoL's lore is more cohesive? Do you think there was a lot of fan service in this show? I genuinely don't know. So if you could let me know in the comments, I would love to hear about it. And you know, while you're there, you could maybe... Can you? Could you? So about the format. Dragon's Blood released all episodes at the same time, and let me just say something here. There's a trade-off when it comes to releasing episodes all at once. You kinda kill all the hype. And while that is fine in some cases, I think a de facto lower budget marketing play like this would have benefited from generating a little bit of hype around weekly releases. In Arcane's case, the release 3 episodes every week structure seems like a nice balance between weekly hype and bingeability, and I can't wait for the next batch to see where it goes. I didn't feel the same excitement for Dragon's Blood. And there's one more thing I have to say before I wrap up, without spoiling the show. Episode 3 is just wow. I already liked the show, but the end of episode 3 really attached me to the story. The way you could empathize with all the characters in that moment at the end. Just great drama, honestly. So, what is the point of all this rambling? It is that this show achieved something that I thought it could never achieve with someone like me. I want to know more about these characters. I want to know if they're in the game. I want to see what their past selves look like if this is the future, or what their future selves will look like if this is the past. I want to know more. I may not go as far as to try League of Legends, but let me tell you, this is the closest I've been. And this is just the first 3 episodes. It was pretty well received cricketly. Well, I do know that it's one of the most popular games of the I need a fucking teleprompter, dudes. Just to not make it sound like Arcane is perfect. Oh man, blah blah blah.